Fire Warden Training Course Introduction. This Fire Warden training video will make you aware of the fire risks at your place of work and explain what you will need to know and do as a nominated fire warden. It will cover how current fire safety legislation applies to you and your organisation. It will also cover the principles of fire, fire precautions, fire hazards and evacuation procedures. A fire can start with very little or no warning. It can spread quickly and can kill. It is therefore essential you know about fire, what fire safety measures are in place at your place of work, and your responsibilities as a fire warden. This training video will not replace the fire safety procedures which are drawn up for your particular workplace. You should find these on the fire action notices displayed throughout the premises. In addition, more detailed instructions may have been issued to you when you started in your present job, or as part of your employer's ongoing staff training program. Be sure to read through your fire safety procedures and fire action notices from time to time, and make sure you understand your responsibilities in the event of a fire. Fire safety legislation, the law. Fire safety is covered by specific legislation. The building regulations covers fire safety requirements in new buildings and in extensions or significant alterations that are made to existing buildings. The regulatory reform, Fire Safety, Order 2005, replaced most fire safety legislation in England and Wales and came into effect on October 2006. The prime responsibility for fire safety falls on the employer, owner, controller of a work premises. Their prime responsibility is to undertake a fire risk assessment to review the current fire safety arrangements, to ensure that the risks from fire are reduced so far as is reasonably practicable, and make sure that everyone on the premises or nearby can escape safely if there is a fire. Like all health and safety legislation, the law governing fire safety imposes responsibilities on both employer and employees in any place of work. Employees are required to take reasonable care of their own health and safety, the health and safety of their fellow workers, and also that of anyone else who may be affected by what they do. For example, members of the public, visitors, contractors, and the occupants of neighbouring premises. The responsible person for the property is required to carry out a fire risk assessment, to act on the findings of this fire risk assessment, and to monitor and update those findings as necessary. This fire risk assessment needs to be documented, and the findings, actions, clearly indicated when they've been resolved. The fire risk assessment is a live tool to monitor the fire safety within the property. In particular, the responsible person will have to ensure that an outbreak of fire can be detected and that there is sufficient means of warning anyone present. Provide safe and adequate escape routes. Maintain fire safety provisions, fire alarm system, emergency lighting systems, portable fighting equipment, and give fire safety instruction to all staff. Maintain and review the fire risk assessment. Undertake further reviews when there is significant change on site. Fire risk assessment. As a fire warden, you may be responsible for carrying out regular inspections of the premises, emergency routes and exits. This will involve you checking the following: emergency routes, to ensure they are free from obstructions. Reviewing general housekeeping. Fire doors are free from damage and to ensure that they are not wedged open. Storerooms are not overloaded. Overloaded sockets or misuse of multi-adapters. Fire alarm panel, break glass units, automatic detectors to ensure they are not damaged, obscured by objects or materials. Fire safety signage to check that they are in good condition and have not been obscured or removed. Firefighting equipment to make sure they are available for use and have not been damaged or previously activated. Any other fire risks to ensure appropriate control measures are in place, for example, good housekeeping observed, flammable materials used safely and suitably stored. The list shown on screen are typical items that as a fire warden you should be on the lookout for. Typical housekeeping items that can be observed on a daily basis include waste disposal, safe storage, obstructed escape routes, Trip-slip hazards. Obstructed access for firefighters. Electric wiring equipment. Enforcement of non-smoking policy. The government has produced 11 guides to assist with fire risk assessments. These are outlined below. Offices and shops. Factories and warehouses. Sleeping accommodation. Residential care. Educational premises. Small, medium places of assembly. Large places of assembly. Theatres and cinemas. Outdoor events. Healthcare premises. Transport network. Common causes of fire. Listed below are some of the most common causes of fire in the workplace. Always keep an eye open for situations where a fire could occur and make sure the risk is kept to a minimum. It's mainly a matter of common sense, but too many people never take the risk of fire seriously. Kitchens. Cooking left unattended is a frequent cause of fire. In particular, a pan of oil left to heat up for too long can burst into flames and cause serious damage to the kitchen or the whole building, as well as endangering the occupants. Staff working in kitchens must be made aware of the dangers and shown safe procedures for using chip pans, deep fat fryers, and other potential sources of fire. Kitchens should also be provided with the correct firefighting equipment, and staff should be instructed in its use. A chip pan fire can often be tackled safely, but only by someone who's been properly trained. Above all, make sure no one tries to move a pan of burning oil or throw water onto the flames. Electrical equipment and wiring. All electrical equipment, including items brought in by staff such as radios or kettles, must be properly maintained and checked regularly in accordance with current regulations. Servicing and repairs should only be carried out by a qualified electrician or other competent person. Sockets must not be overloaded. Always fit additional sockets or cable runs, in preference to using adapters and extension cables. Blown fuses must only be replaced using fuses or fuse wire of the correct rating. Never run cables under carpets. Normal wear, tear and friction can cause breakdown of the insulation and lead to short circuits and overheating, often undetected until it results in a fire. Flammable liquids. Flammable liquids give off vapor, and it is this flammable vapor, often spreading far beyond the surface of the liquid itself, which constitutes the main danger. Petrol, for example, is a highly volatile liquid, while others like diesel or heating oil, though still flammable, are less likely to be accidentally ignited. Solvents, paints and varnishes are examples of commonly used fluids which may be highly flammable. Look for details on the container, and if necessary, keep securely stored when not in use. Do not allow flammable liquids to be used or decanted anywhere near a naked flame or other ignition source, such as electric motors or engines, and always replace the lid or stopper on the container immediately after use. Remember, the warmer the atmosphere, the greater the spread of flammable vapor. Smoking. Where smoking is allowed, metal ashtrays or bins should be provided for cigarette ends and spent matches, and these should be emptied frequently into a metal dustbin. Make sure this waste does not come into contact with other refuse until it has had time to cool down completely. Rubbish and combustible waste. Rubbish or other combustible waste should not be allowed to build up to the point where it presents a fire hazard. Arrangements should be made for it to be collected regularly and disposed of safely. If stored outside, it should be kept in skips or containers well away from the building, where a fire will cause only minimal damage. Piles of oily rags and certain other waste materials can be a source of spontaneous combustion. Arson. Malicious ignition is the biggest single cause of fire in commercial premises. Often this is not part of a sophisticated or carefully planned attack on a business, but simply mindless, opportunist vandalism. Steps can be taken to protect your premises from this threat, mainly by improving site security and removing the temptation. An easily accessible overflowing rubbish skip is an obvious gift to any vandal with a box of matches. Look around your premises. and think how a potential arsonist could start a fire inside or outside the building. Good housekeeping. Good housekeeping is an expression used by fire safety professionals to mean everyday, common-sense precautions that will minimize the risk of a serious fire occurring on your premises and ensure that everyone can get out safely if it does. As the name suggests, it has much to do with tidiness and keeping the workplace in good order. Allowing rubbish and combustible materials to build up obviously creates a serious risk of a fire breaking out and perhaps spreading rapidly. Faulty electrical wiring or equipment which is abused or badly maintained presents another risk, as does the inappropriate use or careless storage of flammable liquids. Escape routes such as stairways and corridors must be kept clear of obstructions or flammable materials. Fire exit doors must be kept easily accessible, free of obstructions, and easily openable from within whenever the premises are occupied. Do not place goods, equipment or furniture where they will hide fire alarm points or extinguishers, or where they will interfere with the operation of fire doors, sprinklers or smoke detectors. There may be other examples of good practice essential to the fire safety of your workplace. Get people to think about the possible consequences of their actions and encourage a culture of good housekeeping. Principles of fire. The fire triangle. To start a fire, and for it to continue to burn, you must have three elements: fuel, heat, and oxygen. If one element is removed, there is no fire. When a fire starts in a building, it grows very quickly, when the temperature rises to such a degree that everything in the room can ignite. If the fuel source is used up, or the heat source removed, i.e. by putting water on the flame, then the fire goes out. The removal of oxygen is the most difficult of the three elements to remove. However, this can occur when using CO2 extinguishers or similar suppression system. Fire spreads by three main ways: direct transfer, direct contact with combustible material; radiation, waves of energy that can pass through the air. High energy means more heat. Conduction, heat from the fire causes the temperature to rise. When the building elements above the fire, if not protected, get hot, they can conduct heat along the elements through the property. When hot enough, they can ignite fires in other parts of the building. Convection, heat and smoke produced by a fire rises through convection. As the heat and smoke cannot escape, the temperature will reach a level where spontaneous ignition can occur. Duties of a fire warden. Your fire safety responsibilities. You must take reasonable care of the safety of yourself and of others who may be affected by your acts or omissions at work. Cooperate with your employer in respect of fire safety matters. Inform your employer of any situation at work which could present a serious fire risk. Inform your employer of any defects in any firefighting equipment, alarms, or other equipment provided for fire safety. As a fire warden, you'll be responsible for all or some of the following: attend fire drills, usually every 6 months. Follow and practice the evacuation procedure. Assist personnel evacuating the building, both in drills and real fires. Guide them to the nearest exit. Ensure your floor areas are clear of personnel and report to coordinator. Shutting down vital or dangerous equipment. Performing a supervisory managing role in any fire situation. Use firefighting equipment if safe to do so. Liaise with the fire brigade upon arrival, if this is part of the emergency plan. Managing fire safety. As a fire warden, fire marshal, you must be aware of your responsibilities and duties, including knowing what appropriate action to take in the event of fire. To ensure that the people on the premises know what to do if there is a fire. This information is set out in the fire action notices displayed throughout the premises. The fire precautions in your workplace. Wherever you work and whatever your position in the organization, make sure you know the fire safety features of the premises and how they will affect you. Like most people, you probably walk past them many times every day without stopping to give them a second thought. Fire doors, fire exits, fire alarm and detection, emergency lighting, firefighting equipment, fire safety signage, Fire precautions can be split down into two different areas: active precautions and passive precautions. Active precautions are systems which are constantly monitoring the environment for any indication of fire, whilst passive precautions are there and will protect people in the event of an evacuation. Active systems include fire alarm systems, fire suppression systems, emergency lighting systems, firefighting equipment. The fire alarm system. Fire alarm systems consist of a means for raising the alarm, either manually via a break glass call point or automatically by a detector head, and a means for sounding the alarm, either a bell, an electronic sounder, voice alarm message, or it could be as simple as a rotary gong or someone shouting fire. Break glass call points are normally clearly visible and installed adjacent to fire exits or adjacent to escape routes. As part of your daily routine, you should identify the break glass points on your escape routes, and be sure you would always go to the nearest one if you needed to raise the alarm. The fire alarm system may include smoke detectors, or in locations susceptible to steam, cooking fumes or dust, heat detectors. Employees need to be aware of these detectors and avoid any activity, such as cooking toast or spraying aerosols, in locations that could cause a false alarm. Most modern systems are controlled by a fire alarm panel, which will identify the source of any alarm, or at least the zone in which it was activated, and provide the means for silencing or resetting the system. This should only be done by an authorized person, in accordance with a fire routine for your premises. If in doubt, your employer should seek the advice of the fire brigade. Some fire alarm systems are connected to a system that calls out the fire brigade automatically whenever the alarm actuates. Another reason why it's important to maintain the system to a high standard and avoid false alarms. If the alarm sounds during working hours, someone should always follow it up with an emergency call to the fire brigade to confirm the presence of a fire or pass on any available information. Fire suppression systems. Within some buildings, there may be some form of suppression provided. This may be either localized to protect an identified risk, i.e. a computer room, car parking, etc., or may be suppression throughout the premises. Types of suppression vary from gases in localized form to water suppression through sprinkler heads. In the event of a fire, a sprinkler head will break due to the heat from the fire, and it will suppress the fire with water from that head. Unlike most action films, when activated, all sprinkler heads do not activate. It's usually 3 or 4 heads only. Emergency lighting systems. Emergency lighting allows people to escape from the premises in the event of a fire or other emergency, even if this coincides with a failure of the normal lighting system. This is not uncommon, as a large number of fires are caused by electrical faults. The emergency lighting units are designed to activate and come on or stay on when the power fails, and to stay on for a period of between 1 and 3 hours using an internal battery or other secondary electrical supply. They often take the form of illuminated fire exit signs, but can also be seen as additional lighting units on the walls or ceiling of an escape route, or even fully integrated into the normal room or other lighting of a building. A certain percentage of bulbs or fluorescent tubes being provided with this backup. The red glow of a small LED light is often, though not always, an indication of emergency lighting. Firefighting equipment. Different types of portable firefighting equipment is provided throughout the premises. These will usually be appropriate for the risks present, but can consist of water, CO2, foam, or other types of extinguisher. You should know exactly what fire extinguishers and other firefighting equipment you have on the premises, and what kinds of fire they can be safely used on, if you've been trained to do so. Lift extinguishers off the wall occasionally to get the feel of them and read the instructions, but be prepared for the weight of the larger extinguishers. All firefighting equipment should be checked annually by a competent servicing engineer, who should then sign and date the label affixed to each item. Extinguishers should be fitted with both a safety pin and an anti-tamper seal. If the seal is found to be broken, or the extinguisher is known to have been even partly discharged, it must be reported for immediate attention. Remember, you should only attempt to fight a fire if you've received proper training, and if you feel safe and confident to do so. Means of escape, fire doors and fire exits. You should be clear which doors are fire doors, as these need to be kept shut unless they are fitted with automatic closing devices linked to the fire alarm system. Most fire doors are fitted with a simple self-closing device, and any glazing incorporated will be fire resistant, for example Georgian wired glass or Pyron. Doors may have intumescent backed smoke seals along each edge of the door, and in most places of work these doors will be labelled Fire Door, Keep Shut. Fire doors are important because they hold back fire and smoke and are designed to protect means of escape such as stairways and corridors. They also prevent fire spreading rapidly from one area or compartment of a building to another. Discourage people from wedging or propping open the fire doors, and always make sure they're closed before locking up the premises. Self-closers and hinges will probably need adjusting from time to time when doors are not closing fully onto their stops. You should know the location of all fire exit doors and how to open them in an emergency. These are the external doors, allowing people to escape to an area of safety. Depending on their location, they may be fitted with any one of a variety of opening mechanisms, including panic bolts, push bars or pads, thumb turns and security devices. However, their operation in the direction of escape must not depend on the use of a swipe card, security code or removable key. Fire exits will usually be clearly marked as such, by sign incorporating the running man pictogram, except for any door that forms the normal means of entering and leaving the building. Fire safety signs. Fire safety signs will be provided throughout your premises. These include safe condition signs, green background with white text, which provide information about safe conditions and means of escape. Mandatory signs, blue background with white text, which state you must do something. And prohibition signage, red border and crossbar with white text, which state you cannot do something. The Fire Action Notice. You should find copies of the Fire Action Notice strategically placed around the building, preferably adjacent to the break glass call points. It should say what to do if you hear the fire alarm sounding, or if you discover a fire. Responding to the fire alarm. From the training you've received and the contents of the Fire Action Notice, you should know the answers to these questions. Where is your assembly point? Can you get to it from any part of the premises? Whose job is it to call the fire brigade? What happens if that person is not around? If the brigade is called out automatically, does someone still dial 999 to confirm or provide additional information? Will responsible members of staff be detailed to investigate the cause of alarm? What precautions should they take? Is a roll call taken, or a physical search of the premises carried out? Whose job is this? Is someone responsible for meeting the fire brigade on arrival? What information will they be expected to supply? Is it your responsibility to sweep your area and confirm that it is clear of people? Who do you then report to? Remember, when sweeping your area, do not put yourself at risk. Remain safe at all times. Action on discovering a fire. You may be the person who discovers a fire, or is told about it by someone who doesn't know what to do. Remember this set of priorities. Raise the alarm if it is not already sounding. Operate a break glass point, or instruct another member of staff to do so. Make sure the fire brigade is called out. Decide whether or not to fight the fire. Have you had suitable training? Is it a small fire that you feel safe and confident to tackle? Do you have the right equipment for this type of fire? Do other people know where you are? The firefighting equipment in your workplace is only designed to extinguish a small fire and should only be used by personnel who have been properly trained in its use. Closing the door on a fire and leaving it for the fire brigade to deal with will often be a better decision. Arrangements for people with disabilities. There should be arrangements in place for the safety of people with disabilities who either work at or report to your premises. These may include equipment for helping disabled people down a flight of stairs. Remember, you must not normally use lifts in the event of a fire. Fire alarm systems may incorporate flashing lights, beacons, or some other system to warn people with hearing difficulties that the alarm is actuated. Or you may have procedures to ensure that a disabled person will always be accompanied by someone who can lead them safely out of the building. Whatever the arrangements, make sure that they are understood by the people who will be affected by them, and practiced as part of the regular fire drills required to be carried out. Summary. Every fire warden holds a key role in the safe management and evacuation. As such, each fire warden must be competent in their role and clearly understand what is required. This relies upon good training and understanding, good communications, assessment, verification of competency. If you're in doubt or unsure, request additional training. We thank you for your kind attention and strongly recommend you view this video twice yearly.